the best friends and process on my wedding day, I discovered my fiancé and maid of honor had been sleeping together for years, but when I confronted them, he simply smiled and said, "Why are you surprised? We've been planning to get married since we were kids. You were just keeping her spot warm." The morning of my wedding day started with sunshine and promise. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, admiring how the delicate lace of my wedding dress hugged my curves in all the right places. My heart fluttered with excitement as I imagined Alex's face when he saw me walking down the aisle. "Olivia, you look absolutely stunning," my mom said, wiping away a tear. I smiled, twirling around to make the dress span out. I can't believe this is finally happening after 7 years together, parent high school sweethearts turned adult partners. Yard Alex and I were finally getting married. We had weathered college, our first jobs, and even a year of long distance when he got an internship across the country. Through it all, our love had stayed strong, or so I thought, as my bridesmaids fussed over the final touches. I realized someone was missing. Here is Emma," I asked, looking around the bridal suite. Emma had been my best friend since 6th grade. We shared everything: parent clothes, secrets, dreams. When Alex proposed, asking her to be my maid of honor was the easiest decision I'd ever made. I think she went to check on something with the coordinator, my cousin Avril said, not quite meeting my eyes. Something in her voice felt off, but I brushed it aside. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother Jason. "You need to come to room 312 right now. Don't bring anyone." My stomach dropped. Jason wasn't one for drama. "I need to step out for a minute," I told the girls, slipping my feet into a pair of flats. "But we're almost done with your makeup," the makeup artist protested. "I'll be right back," I promised, already heading for the door. The hallway of the hotel was quiet, too quiet for a place that should be bustling with wedding preparations. Room 312 was on the other side of the building, parent part of the block we'd reserved for out-of-town guests. When I got there, Jason was waiting outside, his face grim. "What's going on?" I asked, suddenly afraid. He hesitated, then spoke softly. "I think you should see for yourself." As he pushed the door open, I heard familiar voices inside. "Can't keep doing this, Alex. She's my best friend." Emma's voice thick with tears. "Look, after today, it doesn't matter anymore," Alex replied, his tone dismissive in a way I'd never heard before. "We'll figure it out." I stepped into the room and everything froze. Emma stood by the window in her pale blue bridesmaid dress, Maria streaking down her cheeks. Alex was still buttoning up his shirt, his bow tie hanging loose around his collar. The bed behind them was unmade sheets, tangled for a moment. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "Elov," Emma whispered, her face draining of color. Alex recovered first, his expression shifting from shock to something like relief. "What's happening?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Alex ran a hand through his hairster, a gesture I once found endearing. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out," he said, as if that somehow made it better. "Find out what? That you are sleeping with my maid of honor on our wedding day?" My voice remained eerily calm, even as the room started to spin around me. Emma started sobbing, covering her face with her hands. "Olivia, I am so sorry. I never meant for this to happen," when I demanded. How long they exchanged a look that told me everything. 3 years, Alex admitted. 3 years, more than half of our relationship. The word came out as barely a whisper. Alex looked at me then, and I saw something I'd never seen before, paired or perhaps had never wanted to see: indifference. "Why are you surprised?" he asked, almost laughing. "Emma and I have been planning to get married since we were kids. You were just keeping her spot warm." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What are you talking about?" I managed to ask. Alex shrugged. "Emma and I grew up next door to each other. Our parents always joked we'd end up together, but then her family moved away and we lost touch for years." I turned to Emma, who couldn't meet my eyes. "When you introduced us at that party freshman year, I couldn't believe it was her," Alex continued. "But she was dating that football player and I was with you, and it just wasn't the right time. So what was I, some placeholder until you could be with her?" My voice cracked. "It wasn't like that at first," he said, which was perhaps the cruelest part, powering the implication that he had loved me once. But that love had faded. Emma finally looked up. "I tried to end it so many times, but then he proposed to you and I thought maybe it was really over between us. But you accepted being my maid of honor." I was shouting now, the calm giving way to rage. "You've been helping me plan this wedding for a year. I wanted to be happy for you," she whispered. "Both of you stay the hell away from me," I said, backing toward the door. "The wedding is off." As I turned to leave, Alex called after me. "You can't just cancel. People have traveled for this. Your parents have spent a fortune." I spun around, suddenly furious. Watch me back in the bridal suite. I discovered that everyone already knew. The awkward glances, the hushed conversations that stopped when I entered the room. They'd all been protecting me from the truth, or protecting themselves from having to deal with it. "How many of you knew?" I demanded. The silence was answer enough. "Great, well, Tyr's not going to be a wedding today. Shevin should probably tell the guests." My mother rushed forward. "Olivia, honey, let's think about this. Maybe you two can talk it through, Mom. He's been cheating on me with Emma for 3 years. Half our relationship was a lie. Here is nothing to talk through." She blanched. I didn't know it was that long, so she had known something that hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. As I changed out of my wedding dress, I felt strangely empty. 7 years of my life had been built on a foundation of lies, and not just from Alex, part from Emma, my closest friend, the person who knew all my secrets and insecurities, including how much I feared Alex would leave me someday. "What are you going to do now?" Invil asked quietly as she helped me pack up my things. I didn't have an answer. Next few days passed in a blur. I stayed in a hotel downtown, ignoring calls and messages from nearly everyone. I texted my boss that I needed some time off, paired to not the honeymoon I'd planned, but a different kind of break. On the third morning, I woke up to pounding on my hotel room door. When I opened it, I found Lisa, one of my bridesmaids and the only person who seemed genuinely shocked by Alex and Emma's betrayal. "You need to see this," she said, thrusting her phone into my hands. It was Emma's Instagram. She posted a photo of herself and Alex, arms wrapped around each other, standing on what was supposed to be my honeymoon beach in Bali. The caption read, "Some loves are worth waiting for. Finally official after all these years. Number destiny finds a way." My legs gave out and I sank to the floor. "They didn't even wait a week," I whispered. "They're on my honeymoon." Lisa sat beside me, putting an arm around my shoulders. "They're garbage humans, both of them." She was right, but that didn't ease the pain or the humiliation. By the end of the week, I couldn't stand my own company anymore. I decided to go to my parents' place to regroup. As I packed up my hotel room, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Hello, is this Olivia Mitchell?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Charlotte Vever, Alex's mother." My heart seized. "Mrs. Vever, I don't think we have anything to talk about. Please just hear me out," she said, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. I'd always known her as a forceful, opinionated woman who had quite frankly intimidated me against my better judgment. I stayed on the line. "I want to apologize," she continued. "What Alex and Emma did to you was unforgivable. I hadn't expected that, thank you. But no, please let me finish. I've known Emma's family since before she was born. Her mother Diane and I were college roommates. The kids grew up together, and yes, everyone did joke they'd end up married someday. I closed my eyes, each word another twist of the knife, but that doesn't excuse what they did. Betrayal is betrayal, and I want you to know that I don't support how they've handled this. Alex has. She hesitated. He's changed in the last few years. Returned someone I don't always recognize. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because I think you deserve to know that their story isn't as picture perfect as they're making it out to be. And because I want to give you this. Give me what? If you could meet me for coffee tomorrow, I have something that belongs to you. Curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet Charlotte the next morning at a small cake store downtown. She was already waiting when I arrived, a manila envelope on the table in front of her. After an awkward greeting, she pushed it toward me. What is this? I asked, not reaching for it. Insurance documents, she said, and property deeds. I stared at her, confused. The beach house in Cape Cod, she clarified, the one you and Alex were renovating. He told you it was an investment property that you two purchased together, didn't he? I nodded slowly. We'd spent the last 2 summers fixing it up, planning to rent it out when we weren't using it ourselves. The truth is, that house was my grandparents'. I gave it to both of you as an early wedding present last year, but I put it solely in your name because Alex has always been financially irresponsible. I wanted to make sure it stayed in the family. My mind raced to catch up, so the house is mine. She nodded fully and legally. Alex doesn't know this. He assumes it's in both your names, but I never added him to the deed. Why would you give it to me now? Charlotte's eyes hardened. Because my son and Emma are attempting to sell it. They've already contacted a realtor claiming the two of them own it. I felt a flash of anger that cut through the fog of hurt I'd been living in. They can't do that. No, they cannot. And I am not about to let them profit from their betrayal. She tapped the envelope. Everything you need is in here, including a letter from my attorney confirming your ownership. As I took the envelope, another question occurred to me. Does Emma know about the house? Charlotte's smile was tight. Oh, I am quite certain she does. Alex never could keep a secret from her. The realization hit me like a wave. They hadn't just been sleeping together behind my back. They'd been planning their future together, using my relationships, my finances, my dreams as stepping stones. Thank you for this, I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You deserved better than what they did to you, and for what it's worth, I am truly sorry I won't be getting you as a daughter-in-law. As we parted ways, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, but now there was something else, too, a spark of determination, of righteous anger. Alex and Emma thought they could just move on with their happily ever after taking pieces of my life with them. I wasn't going to let that happen. The Cape Cod house sat on a bluff overlooking the ocean, weathered gray shingles and white trim giving it that classic New England charm. As I pulled into the graveled driveway, my hands were shaking, but not from sadness. Sure enough, a real estate sign was already planted in the front yard. Coming soon, it proclaimed in bold letters. I used my key to let myself in, half expecting to find the locks changed. But the door swung open easily, revealing the space I'd poured so much love into. The driftwood coffee table I'd refinished myself, the nautical-themed throw pillows I'd found at a flea market, the photo wall featuring snapshots of Alex and me that now made my stomach turn. I was taking the last of those photos down when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the window, I watched Emma emerge from a sleek black SUV, followed by a woman in a business suit who I assumed was the realtor. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to take deep breaths. This was my house. I opened the front door just as they reached the porch steps. Emma froze, her face draining of color. Olivia, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I replied, leaning against the doorframe. The realtor looked between us, confusion evident on her face. I am sorry, is there a problem? No problem at all, I said pleasantly. I am the owner of this property and I am not currently interested in selling. Emma's expression shifted from shock to anger. That's not true. This house belongs to Alex and me. We've been renovating it for 2 years. I smiled, the gesture not reaching my eyes. Actually, the deed is solely in my name. Charlotte Baber gave it to me as a wedding present. But you knew that already, didn't you, Emma? She flinched, confirming my suspicion. I think here's been a misunderstanding, the realtor said carefully. I was told this property was owned by Alexander Weber and Emma Carlisle. I'd be happy to show you the deed I offered. Or you could check the counter records yourself. The woman glanced at Emma, whose face had shifted into a forced smile. Perhaps we should reschedule while I clarify the ownership situation. That would be best, I agreed. Once the realtor had retreated to her car, Emma turned on me, her voice low and furious. What do you think you are doing? Protecting what's mine, I replied simply. Something I should have done a long time ago. This is ridiculous, Alex, and I have put thousands of dollars into this place, and I am sure you two will have a wonderful life together in whatever home you can afford with your combined salaries. But it won't be this one. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. You need to stop this. You lost Olivia. He chose me. He's always chosen me. The words were meant to hurt, but strangely they didn't. Instead, they clarified something I hadn't fully processed until that moment. You are right, I said quietly. He did choose you over and over again while lying to my face. And you chose him over our 15-year friendship. Tears welled in her eyes. Yards, whether from guilt or frustration, I couldn't tell. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. No, how was it supposed to happen? Were you going to wait until after the wedding? Maybe after we had kids? She looked away. You wouldn't understand. Alex and I have a history that save it. I cut her off. I don't care about your epic love story. The fact is, you both lied to me for years. You watched me plan a wedding to a man you were sleeping with. You helped me pick out lingerie for my honeymoon with him. My voice cracked on the last words. The memory of those shopping trips pair Emma's seemingly genuine excitement. Her suggestions about what Alex would like turned suddenly unbearable. I was trying to end it, she whispered so many times, not hard enough apparently. We stood in silence for a moment, the only sound the distant crash of waves and the call of seagulls. Finally, Emma spoke again, her voice small. What are you going to do with the house? I looked past her out to the ocean where the afternoon sun danced on the water. Keep it, live in it, rent it out. I haven't decided yet, but it's mine to decide. She nodded slowly, defeat evident in the slump of her shoulders. As she turned to leave, a final question occurred to me. Did you ever actually care about me at all? Or was I just an obstacle between you and what you wanted? Emma paused, half turned away from me. You were my best friend, Liv. That wasn't a lie, but not enough to stop you from betraying me. She didn't answer, just continued down the steps to her car. As I watched her drive away, I felt something unexpected, not closure exactly, but a sense of having taken back some small piece of control over my life. They had stolen years from me, but they wouldn't take anything else. I ended up staying at the beach house that night, and then the next, and the next. There was something healing about the sound of the waves and the solitude. I started removing traces of Alex burnt his clothes from the dresser, his favorite books from the shelves. One evening, as I was sorting through a box of of mementos in the attic, I came across a photo album I'd never seen before. Amplified were pictures of two children, pairing a boy with sandy blonde hair and a girl with dark curls, Alex and Emma as kids playing on the Sperry beach. There they were building sandcastles, chasing waves, sitting on the porch with ice cream cones, a documented childhood that I'd known nothing about. On the last page was a crayon drawing clearly done by a child. It showed a boy and a girl holding hands in front of a house that looked remarkably like this one. At the bottom in wobbly letters, Alex and Emma forever. I should have felt angry finding this, but instead I felt a strange sort of peace. Their connection wasn't something new or sudden apparent, it had been there all along, predating me by years. In some ways that made the betrayal both worse and easier to understand. I closed the album and put it aside. It was part of this house's history now. Just as I was, the next morning I woke to pounding on the front door. When I opened it, I found Alex standing there, his face tight with anger. "Where is it?" he demanded without preamble. "Here's what the deed to this house. My mother said she gave it to you." I crossed my arms. "She did. It's in a safe place." He pushed past me into the house, looking around wildly as if expecting to see it sitting on a table. "You need to sign it over to me. This house has been in my family for generations, and now it's in mine," I replied calmly. He spun to face me, and for a moment I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. "You don't deserve this place. You don't understand what it means. I understand it was a gift from your mother to me, and I understand you and Emma were planning to sell it without telling anyone." His expression faltered. "That's not, we weren't going to sell it. The realtor Emma brought by would disagree." Alex ran a hand through his hair. Pure that familiar gesture that now made my skin crawl. "We need the money, Liv. Emma's starting her own business, and I am helping her get it off the ground. Not with this house, you are not." He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "When did you get so cold?" The question almost made me laugh, probably around the time I found out my fiancé and best friend had been sleeping together for years. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, the words so patently absurd that this time I did laugh. "Oh, so the cheating and the lies were meant to make me feel good." His face hardened. "You know what I mean. Things just happened for 3 years. Things don't just happen for 3 years, Alex. You made choices, both of you did." He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "We're getting married," he said finally. "Next month." "Congratulations," I replied flatly. "I hope you'll be very happy together." "We will be," he insisted, an edge of desperation in his voice. "We were always meant to be together. Then I guess it all worked out for the best." He hesitated, then asked, "What about you? What are you going to do now?" It was a strangely intimate question from someone who had shown such complete disregard for my happiness, but I found I had an answer ready. "I am going to live my life on my terms." Shivers with this house. Something in my tone must have reached him because he nodded slowly, the fight seeming to drain out of him. "I am sorry," he said quietly, "for how it all happened. But not that it happened," I noted. He didn't deny it. After he left, I walked down to the beach and sat on the sand watching the waves roll in and out. The water was gray today, reflecting the cloudy sky above, but there was beauty in the grayness, in the raw power of the ocean that remained constant regardless of human drama. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in weeks. Olivia. Lisa sounded surprised. "Are you okay?" "I am good," I said, realizing as I spoke that it was becoming true. "Actually, I am having a little housewarming party at my place in Cape Cod this weekend. Want to come?" There was a pause, then Lisa laughed. "Hell yes, I do. What part is this the house you and Alex were working on?" "It's my house now," I corrected her. "Just mine, even better." As we worked out the details, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks, parent excitement, possibility, the future stretching out before me unwritten. Alex and Emma had their shared past, their childhood promises. Let them have each other. I had a whole life ahead of me. Part one that would be entirely my own creation. 6 months later, the beach house had transformed. True were the nautical themes and the de Brûlée perfect decor that Emma had helped me choose. In their place was a more eclectic style that reflected my own tastes. Bright colors, local artwork, comfortable furniture meant to be lived in. I'd quit my marketing job in the city and started freelancing from the house, taking on projects that excited me rather than just paid the bills. The guest room had become my office with a desk positioned to overlook the ocean. Lisa visited often, as did other friends who'd stood by me through the aftermath of the almost wedding. Even Charlotte Weber stopped by occasionally, seemingly pleased with what I'd done with the place. I'd heard through the grapevine that Alex and Emma's wedding had been small and rushed, apparent nothing like the elaborate affair we planned for months. There were rumors of money troubles, of tension between them. I found I didn't much care either way. On a warm September evening, I was sitting on the deck with a glass of wine when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but the content made the sender immediately clear. "I miss you. I made a terrible mistake. Pante." I stared at the message, waiting for the hurt or anger or vindication to wash over me. But what I felt instead was nothing. No, that wasn't quite right. What I felt was freedom. I took a picture of my bare feet propped up on the deck railing, the ocean sunset visible in the background. I sent it back with no caption, then blocked the number. Some loves aren't worth waiting for, some are worth walking away from. And sometimes the most important love story is the one you write for yourself. Whoever said that the best revenge is living well got it right. I'd built a life I loved in the wake of betrayal, not to prove anything to them, but because I deserved it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I raised my glass in a silent toast to myself, to the woman who hadn't let heartbreak define her, to the future, whatever it might hold in the end. Alex and Emma did me a favor. They freed me from a relationship built on lies, pushed me out of a life that was comfortable but constrained. Their betrayal had been the worst pain I'd ever felt, parent, but it had also been the catalyst for my most authentic joy, and that perhaps was the greatest plot twist of all.